someone I know has found to be well, that's not quite right. Well, okay, I know this person. I know them for long, from way back, and he was my Facebook friend, and then he wasn't, and then recently he posted on my timeline, implying that I was a religious fanatic, and I'm just entertaining the idea that I might be a religious fanatic. What do you think, folks? Am I a religious fanatic or just a very focused political activist? I mean, I do go on about idolatry and blasphemy quite a lot, don't I? And that sounds suspiciously like religious fanaticism. Now, what is religious fanaticism? Well, it would be going on about principles a lot, particularly religious principles, religious practices, theology, matters of doctrine. And I know that I do go on about these things quite a lot. Now, why do I go on about them? I think I'm just making up for people who don't, but who are supposed to do these things. So, although technically I'm an agnostic, I will have to admit that I do go on about matters of religious doctrine and theology. And I do it because I feel somehow sucked into this whole idea of looking at things through a theist lens. And that's because, everybody's thinking like atheists anyway, including rabbis and Christians and Muslims. And they never use the narrative of the Abrahamic God. And that's why I keep going on like this. The Freak asks if I've seen a leaked video from Julian Assange on what matter. I'm afraid I don't know. I'm not really up to date about these things. I don't think in my response to him that I came across as a religious fanatic. I think I was being impartial. I wasn't, quoting reams from the New Testament the way Christian religious fanatics do in their really annoying way. So I think I am managing not to keep my head above water as regards being a religious fanatic. I just feel I need to go on about blasphemy and idolatry to take up the slack of rabbis and Muslims who ought to go on about these things but never do. I can't expect Christians to go on about it because we already know they are congenitally incapable of even comprehending the concept of idolatry. So that's why I come across as a religious fanatic. I think that's why I keep going on about religion. Okay, I can talk about your stuff now, Freak. So what did Julian Assange say about vaccinations? I think the best anti-vax video I saw was by Sam Gerrans of Koranite. So he basically says, well, probably nothing too nasty will be injected into us at the moment, but in time we'll probably be color-coded according to our, Facebook posts or our age, our sex, and then they'll keep giving us booster shots, and then eventually decide which ones of us they want to keep and which ones of us they want to go. And it'll be done very effectively. I mean, I don't think, okay, it won't be, people dropping dead immediately. It will be, kind of timed, so people don't make the connection between having the booster shot or whatever and the eventual demise of the patient. So that was the most sinister explication of a conspiracy theory on vaccinations. What did you want to say about it, the freak? Oh, so you think it's about the CIA plan with vaccines that are able to cull religious fanaticism by modifying a certain part of the brain? Well, I don't think it's so easily done. You see, religious and political fanaticism is really done through following principles. So if you're very keen on your ideology, whatever it is, be it leftism or rightism or religious fanaticism, or being the purity spiraling that you get in different kinds of groups, you have to understand the psychology behind it. Obviously, if you're really dead keen on your ideology, be it Nazism or liberalism or conservatism, you're going to read up about it, and then you're going to absorb its principles, and then you're going to show off to others in your group about how well you know these things, and then you'll kind of generate a competition about who's the best of commies or Nazis or liberals or whatever. Oh, I didn't know you have a proper channel, the freak. I'll have a look at it. Is it you though? Okay, I don't know what your channel is. So I don't know how to find you. And there are lots of titles called The Freak. Okay, maybe if I give you a wrench, you can post a link to your channel in the chat. Okay, so what was I saying? So if you're into whatever ideology you're into, you're gonna read up about it, and then you're gonna know its principles, and then you're gonna show off to others in your group how much of the principles you understand and how you apply them. And I just don't see how any vaccine would take away this urge to show off. I don't see how, because if you destroy this part of the brain, then it just wouldn't be able to follow any instructions or reason by analogy or do normal things. So I would tend, well, I'm going to say it's fake news, because the whole point of religious fanaticism is people say, oh, we're not supposed to commit adultery, be guilty of, we can't practice idolatry or blasphemy, and then just keep going on about the things that, we're supposed to do or not supposed to do. And I think, people who are, absorbed by the subject will of course go on about it. People go on about their stamp collections and hobbies, and in a totally nerdy way. And this is what political activists do, because they're into it. They think their political ideology is best, and obviously, I, having created Secular Koranism, obviously I want to promote it, and I know that I have competing secular ideologies and religious ideologies. That it's a hybrid. That Secular Koranism is a hybrid of, and therefore I need to make these analogies and absorb these principles and go on about them. As for why I keep going on about idolatry and blasphemy, I am indeed taking up the slack of rabbis not teaching them properly, because it drives me mad. They're the ones who are supposed to do it. They won't do it, and they get to lord over me. And saying I have no right to ask them because I'm not Jewish or something. But to be fair, a few of them have been quite reasonable and said, look, we're just scared. You know what they did to us when they took their religion seriously, and we don't see why we should risk our necks by being rude about their religion. And where will it get us anyway? Nobody listens to us anyway, and that kind of thing. But I'm saying people will listen to you if you craft your message in the right way and propagate it in a way that will allow it to have maximum publicity. But obviously nothing will happen if you're too scared to talk about it. So the least they can do, these rabbis, is to talk about it with each other, and I think I've been reasonably successful in getting them to talk about it to each other, because what I say they should be doing, which is to rank the 4 Gentile religions, is quite easy to do. It's kind of tempting, even when you think about it, because if you think there are these 7 Noahide laws, and then you're supposed to rank these 4 Gentile religions according to their conformity with the Noahide laws, then it's irresistible. So people will be doing it, and you seem to be saying that these vaccines have a way of interfering with our ability to do this thing. I don't think so. And it's also very important for us to reason by analogy, and it's part of the legal training that I had, that, in your mind you have a list of characteristics of a particular idea, and then you also have to consider this particular idea and whether it's in opposition to another idea, or has a similarity to this idea, or is analogous to another idea, and round and round we go on the merry-go-round. So I suppose I'm a little, concerned that this person might think I am a religious fanatic and tell my other friends that I am a religious fanatic. And am I concerned? Not really. But what I find annoying is that people are so unable to debate things these days that they can't even, examine an idea using words. They can't even ask the right question. And so what will happen is that they'll just make all kinds of assumptions about you, and then never talk to you again. Yes, I think a lot of people are avoiding the vax, I guess, for a combination of reasons. Good, I'm glad you like talking about idolatry, the freak. Hello, Jacob Wallenberg. Well, I know the Muslims hero worship Muhammad, but it's not something I do. So is hero worshipping somebody making an idol of them? It does sound like it, doesn't it? But as long as they don't actually worship him. But you see, that's why I prefer the Jewish way of regarding their prophets. Jews are, really at ease with the sin of their prophets. They don't pretend that their prophet was, a morally perfect person. So they're not invested in this belief the way Sunni Muslims are, or maybe any other kind of Muslim. And that's why, the sort of pedo thing that they keep, getting thrown at them is really, how they have sanctified the memory of Muhammad until he became a kind of Muslim saint. And because of his apparent saintliness, Islamophobes will just want to say the most insulting thing they can think of in their own terms, and it is, of course, to accuse another man of being a paedophile. Now, if they weren't so invested in the moral perfection of Muhammad, they would just shrug their shoulders and say, in all probability, Muhammad wasn't perfect. He might have done a few wrong things, but still he was our prophet and we stand by him, or something of the sort. And, that's good enough. I would say if I were Muslim, it's like, well, he doesn't have to be morally perfect as long as he, delivered the Quran as God's messenger to humanity. There's no requirement that he be morally perfect. So, you're not going to hurt my feelings if you say that, maybe Muhammad saw when he stubbed his toe or something. Or occasionally he got a bit waspish with, people who annoyed him or whatever. So if these Sunnis were not so crazy about their own thing, then they just wouldn't get so triggered about so many things. It's only when you pretend or are really invested in the purity of the morals of your prophet that people just want to throw some mud at it. You see, I don't have a problem about, Muhammad not being the perfect man, because, all I'm interested in doing is following the Quran. Now, back to the question of my being a religious fanatic. Am I a political fanatic? In the sense that I go on about secular Koranism. I probably am. I am quite invested in the idea, so I will talk about it. I will defend it. And I think that's pretty logical and normal, all things considered, because I do believe that it is a solution, and I have to promote it in order to assist its eventual adoption. Okay, well, I'm glad you don't think I'm a fanatic. And the freak asks, if they or some of them aren't worshipping them, I guess, Muhammad, how is it that a cartoon will trigger our trigger one of a billion of them to stab old people at a church, a cartoon. Well, perhaps some of them are just looking for any excuse to do it. It's a shame that we can't, open the contents of their minds after they kind of do their suicide by cop thing. But I think if a young Muslim man suffering from mental health issues decides to go off the rails in this way, it becomes part of his identity, you see. So, a lot of people complain that, if you're a white person, if you're an angry white man and you commit an act of terrorism, people will just assume you're mentally ill, and that's a bit annoying. If you think, I did it because of my politics, of my political beliefs, how dare they just assume, just because I'm white, that I'm mentally ill. And Muslims no doubt will complain that, not every Muslim who does these crazy things is actually a political activist or even has any political view in mind when he does those things. He probably just went, berserk and went amok, and that was what he did without actually thinking of his religion or his God. But because of our desire to stereotype people and assume we know what was in their minds when we could have no way of knowing, we just want to assume that white people who mass murder must be mentally ill and Muslims who mass murder must be terrorists. And that's how most people roll, I guess. Well, that person, he didn't actually call me a fanatic, he just called me a loony, a religious loony. And there are people who are very anti-religion. Now, I don't really mind. I guess I'm just a bit disappointed by the quality of the debate that he has produced. And I feel, sad that he won't be able to argue it properly with me, and he'll just forget about it, or just go around telling the rest of my friends that I'm a religious loony. But I guess in the end, I should expect these things. I have to talk about principles because my whole idea is a collection of principles, and I have to explain to you why I think it is the best, and I have to rely on the principles of the no-hide system and the ranking system that I want rabbis to do for me, producing Islam as most no-hide and Christianity least no-hide, and all these chains of reasoning so that you understand why Islam is the only moral and rational choice, even though you hate it. And it's not surprising that you would hate acknowledging that something that you thought was part of your civilizational identity has crashed and burnt. And I'm saying, no, it doesn't matter. Really, just don't worry about it. Because what we need to be as rational, moral human beings is to respond to events and form correct conclusions and decide on taking appropriate action in order to solve and avoid problems. So, it doesn't matter what we think we are. Because, okay, if we're talking about identity issues, we're talking about, minimum standards. So, if we're talking about politics, we have to talk about principles. We have to talk about moral principles, because ultimately, when we talk about politics, it is about morality. And the discussion I was having with this person was about morality, and maybe moral reasoning is hard for a lot of people, but I've thought it through, and I think it's quite easy, and that's why I think I should be, maybe giving lectures at university or something. Not sure what you mean, Tafriq. There's no way you can kill yourself and show up in the presence of God and try to say that you were grateful for your life on earth. It would be a near impossible statement to make. Well, okay, you're not supposed to kill yourself as a Catholic or as a Jew either, are you? I think they're all going to say suicide is forbidden. I'm glad you're being so conciliatory, Tafriq. Really, I don't think we should feel bad about Christianity even, because if you believe that God is in control of this universe and everything happens for a reason, then everything, even Christianity had a reason, and I've given you the reason, and the reason is God playing a practical joke on unprincipled people who don't get it, that the Ten Commandments forbid idolatry and blasphemy. And the joke isn't just on Christians, it's also on Jews who didn't get round to telling anyone that Christianity is idolatry and blasphemy in the whole of the 2,000 years of Christian history. And as for the Muslims, they have even less excuse than the Jews, because their Quran clearly says that they are to admonish those who claim that God has begotten a son. So no excuses for Muslims, no excuses for Jews, no excuses for Christians. And I think it has a quite satisfying conclusion in that, well, nobody gets off scot-free. There's, wrong on every side, and there is the possibility of Abrahamic reconciliation, and things might, disaster might yet be averted if people just had a dialogue about the whole thing, and invited me on in their TV studio or whatever to help things along. So I think that would actually help a lot of people. And as for the rich people who think their wealth will protect them, that would be very foolish indeed. If they know anything of their history, if they know anything of proscription under in Roman times, in the late Republic, when things were pretty scary, when rich people were basically accused of something horrible, and then their property was confiscated by the state in order to pay off the soldiers who wanted a little bit of land to retire in. So, and the rich were routinely looted by their governments. They were either sent into exile or made to commit suicide. It wasn't very nice. So I don't think wealthy people can really get away with it scot-free, and it would be in their interest also to see to it that the rule of law continues to be obeyed. Hello, Azalzi too. I'm very well, hope you are too. Do I believe in signs from God? Well, I guess I think I can read the runes, so to speak. I think everybody looks for a sign that they think might be from God telling them to do something or other when, they really can't make up their minds and they're in a terrible state of internal conflict about their dilemma and their indecision. And I don't mind admitting that I'm sometimes one of those people too. And of course, as the world gets more uncertain, people worry a bit more about the future and things undone and all that kind of thing. And we feel, because we're increasingly uncertain of the future, we're just not sure about what to do. We want to avoid doing things, I think. And we maybe would become sclerotic and what's the word? We just don't really want to do things because we really can't decide what to do for the best. So this comes with uncertainty that obviously we want to get over and eventually get to a society that is more predictable and more stable. So this is what we want, and I think as I explore the benefits of thinking like a theist, I think it has certain advantages. It just makes you feel more certain about things, and this gives one peace of mind, and the most corrosive emotion of all is really doubt. If you doubt who you are, then you'll doubt what you ought to be doing, and if you doubt what you ought to be doing, then you're really not going anywhere. So a lot of time is wasted, dithering about, wondering what to do. And when you have a set of principles that tells you what you're supposed to do, and a belief system that allows you to be happier in what you do, then and you think that's helping the next generation of your group, your nation, your tribe, your empire, whatever, then you'll feel a bit more settled about life and marginally less neurotic. So I hope I've managed to show in a little way that I'm not a religious fanatic. I'm just applying principles, and I think it is necessary to know what they are in order to apply them correctly and solve and avoid problems in that way. Thank you all for listening.